Welcome to the GHQ Crew Podcast, where golf meets laughs, legends, and a little bit of chaos. Before we dive into our swinging stories and banter, a quick heads up. The views expressed here are entirely our own and do not necessarily reflect those of the fine club companies we represent. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's get ready to tee off on a wild ride through the world of golf and beyond. Let's go.
Welcome to the GHQ Crew Podcast, where if you want to learn to go pro, you better get on Team Mizuno.
Dude, that was a good one.
That was a good one. I hadn't been in the hot seat for a few weeks, and I've been thinking about this episode and trying to come up with a good line. And last night, laying in bed, as I was not sleeping where I should have been, I came up with this awesome line. And so we're excited. We're excited because this is the second time we've been able to get a club representative in the seat. And this is going to be a very exciting episode because not only do we have a club representative in the seat, we have one of the best club companies in the seat. They've been doing it this way for a very long time, and they're known for, I think if you were to put at the pinnacle of what they're known for, it's the feel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, their forging and their attention to detail is second to none. And this guy today that we have, if you get the opportunity to do a fitting with this gentleman, do it. Easily the most knowledge in the field out of everybody. And he's worked his way all the way through the biz.
Well, sure, not because, but there's a kind of a family history with this company too. Who do we got on the podcast today?
My man Ridge.
How's it going, guys?
What's up?
Oh, beautiful day here in Midland, Texas. Had a nice little start to the morning and excited to be sitting in the chair today and sit in the hot seat.
We're excited to have you. And we like to kind of start off. We're going to get a little personal before we get into the actual club business. Okay. We kind of start off every podcast with our guests asking them how they got started in golf. Was it a junior thing? Was it your dad who got you involved, or your family that got you involved, and kind of where you took it? We obviously know the route you went with the industry, but kind of start at the beginning and lead us up to where you are now.
Yeah, so I was pretty much born and raised in a golf shop when I was a young kid. My dad ran a store that some people may have heard of in Nevada Bob's.
Yeah.
So my dad was a general manager in Nevada Bob's all through my childhood, and then had an opportunity to go work for a club company in the same role I'm in. And when I was about 14, 13, my chores, basically what I would have to do around the house was get demos cleaned up, or be the one to help dad on his presentations, or learn how to fit. So it's something that's just always been around. And then through high school, I worked at random driving ranges and big box stores, and just slowly just found my way into the golf industry. And, you know, you try to push yourself out of it just because you grew up in it for your whole life. But every time I've tried to leave, I come right back.
Heck yeah.
What is it that keeps you coming back?
I don't know. That's a great question. When I was 22, I had a quarter life crisis, and I'm done. I'm done. At 22, I've already been in this industry for 7 years. That's just way too long for a kid coming out of college. So I got out, and I was working retail for a clothing company, and a couple Corn Ferry Tour guys would come in constantly and just talk shop with me. What's new in the market right now? What shafts are you playing? And what new golf ball you've been tinkering with? And it was just something I noticed that always just brought a lot of joy to talk about. And that was when I decided it's time to get back in the industry. And that was when I decided I needed to get into customer service with one of the brands so I could kind of work my way up.
Yeah. Is that when you got started with Mizuno?
That was. So that was in 2016. And I threw my name out to every single manufacturer that I could find just to see if they'd let me get in front of them for an interview. And for those who don't know, if you want to start in this industry, the best way to do it is either be a tech rep or a customer service rep. And I went the customer service route. So I did a ton of interviews with a bunch of different brands. I was living in Atlanta at the time, which Mizuno is based in just outside Atlanta. So it was a very seamless transition for me to go into the Mizuno customer service role because I didn't have to move.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. If there was ever an issue at Mizuno, this is who you called.
Ridge got it taken care of.
He fixed it.
Yeah.
Every time. And we went through a couple of, well, I'll say this. Nick Mealy worked for you guys for a little bit as an OSR. And I love Nick. So we'll take him out of the equation here. But, there for a while, after Mikey left, they really tried multiple people.
Yeah.
So when I heard that you were coming out of the OSR ranks, or the ISR ranks into the OSR world, I went, all right, this is going to be sweet. So you grew up, you were around the biz all the time. Now, tell us about your dad a little bit. Where's he at now?
Yeah, so my dad's with U.S. Kids now. He's been with U.S. Kids for about 15 years.
Yeah.
He wanted something more that was going to keep him at home a little bit. But just like anybody, as soon as you put him in the house, he gets antsy, wants to get back on the road. But no, he's been with the U.S. Kids now for about, 15 years or so. And just really his passion now is just growing the junior market, growing the junior game. It's one of the fastest growing markets in all of golf. And he's made a really big impact out there, and he's loving life.
He, you know how I feel about him. People at home don't know who he is, but well, maybe they do. But it wouldn't surprise me if there was a bunch.
Not.
But your dad's a legend in this game, man.
I appreciate that.
And the biggest thing about him is he's always done phenomenal work, but now it's pouring into the next generation. Right, we had a guy on Tuesday, Coach Bergen out of Andrews, and we talked a lot about that. That next generation, and pouring into them. That's how we're going to grow the game.
Absolutely.
Right, but it's also our duty. It's our job. We went and saw Tim Tebow the other night.
Yeah.
At the Life Center deal.
Yeah.
This guy's arms are this big.
Oh, he's massive.
Okay, so let's start there. But Tebow talked about this very passionately, right? Talked about, how it's our job, it's our duty to ensure that, and in his example, it was for the kiddos, right, that are not born yet. It's our job to make sure they're born, but to fight for them, right? To fight for that generation. And, it's not so different here in terms of us growing the game. And it's pretty cool that your dad's involved in that. Now, do you have many opportunities still to work hand in hand with him, or did y'all kind of do this?
We kind of did this. I'm very blessed because my dad and I are very close. We talk every day, multiple times a day. I consider him a best friend of mine. But with that being said, any father-son relationship, there's always headbutting.
Sure.
And, I grew up playing baseball and I played travel baseball, and my dad was my coach. And anyone who's ever played baseball with me will tell you my dad was 10 times harder on me and was a little bit more irrational with me than everyone else. And we do really well together in other things, but we also understand that right now is not the right time. But who knows? Who knows? I would love to work with him one day, but right now we both are in a really good spot.
That's cool. That's cool.
So you started out with Mizuno as an inside rep, our inside rep of all places. Tell us a little bit about that transition, because in 2016 you go inside with Mizuno, and then how did it work to where you became the outside sales rep specifically out here?
Oh man, it's first off, it was a whirlwind. So when I was working in customer service, I had a blast. Customer support, everyone thinks, oh, you're answering phones, you're getting yelled at all the time. You do get yelled at, but it happens every once in a while. But it's a blast. You never know who you're interacting with. You never know who you're going to build relationships with. I mean, we built our relationship over the phone, just not knowing each other. And I got an announcement on an email one day that Dallas was open, and I walked in the head of Mizuno's office one day, and I just said, hey, is this something that I would be open for? And he said, before you put your name in, I want you to go home. I want you to pray about it. I want you to talk to your family about it. And if this is an opportunity that fits you, put your name in and see what happens. So from the day I put my name in for consideration for the role, I was in Dallas starting the role in about 2.5 weeks.
Holy smokes.
So, I mean, you talk about changing a chapter. It was pack your bags. You're moving to Texas. Get a U-Haul. We'll see you on Friday.
So he didn't sounds like to me, he was like, yeah, this is my guy. This is who I want, right?
Well,
but he couldn't just come out and say that.
there's a combination of things. One, it was the middle of May. I mean,
So they needed somebody now.
yeah, you got to have guys out there doing demo days. You got to have guys out there to service a territory. I mean, imagine not having any rep taking over y'all's business in the middle of April, May, June.
Yeah.
It would be an absolute nightmare. So they told us there was a sense of urgency there. I got offered the job on a Wednesday. I remember that distinctly because that Friday I flew to Dallas to find a place to live, and we had the U-Haul packed out the door by Monday or Tuesday. So I mean, it was
Holy moly!
when I say it was a quick turnaround, it was very quick.
Yeah. Wow. So coming from Atlanta to DFW, do you like Texas better?
You know, that's a great question. So I moved a lot. If you've ever worked in golf, especially in my role, you're just going to move. So when I was 8, we moved to Oklahoma, lived in Tulsa for a long time. And when you live in Tulsa, you always want to live in the big city. And quote unquote big city when you're living in Oklahoma is Dallas. So I always dreamed about living in Dallas. And they told me you got Oklahoma too, so you get to go up to Oklahoma, and then you're going out to West Texas, which I had a couple buddies who lived out there. So I was like, this could really be an opportunity that just fits. And as soon as I made the move out to Texas, it was just such a seamless transition.
Yeah.
The people are phenomenal. It's a huge city, but the pace is so much slower than you expect from a big city.
Sure.
And it prepared me for traffic, I can tell you that much. Atlanta's traffic's got nothing, or Dallas traffic's got nothing on Atlanta. Nothing.
Or that traffic you faced this morning. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. For those who don't know, we started a little late today, so I was staying in Snyder, Texas, which is, an hour 48 from here?
Yeah.
And they're doing construction work on one lane on a 2-lane highway. So I sat at this little traffic light waiting with no other traffic coming either way for about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
Yep. Small town Texas road work.
Yeah.
I know that road right where you're talking about. They've done that at least 5 times in the past 3 years on that little 2-lane.
It's unreal, dude.
It's always like that.
And somebody was eating their sandwich or something, not paying attention, right? They're giving you the green light.
Well, that was the more frustrating part. Like, you don't see any of the work. You don't see anything. So you're just sitting here. There's no one in front of you, no one coming past you. And you're just like, can I just run this?
Yeah, you can.
You can, but then you get 2-3 miles down the road. Then you see the road work. And like, oh, good.
Connor, isn't that the whole the place we stopped and hit golf balls into the field?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. we were the first one at the light.
We got to the light that morning. We were on our way to Martin's to play his par 3 course, and we got stopped at that light, and nothing is happening. And so we just got some golf balls out.
Just got out and started hitting balls.
Into the.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Pretty West Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
So some farmer's going to be tilling up his field, and the golf ball's going to ruin his plow.
Gum, what's this?
Is that a noodle?
It's a Pro V1. Damn it! I'm gonna put that in the bag.
Probably will.
I'm gonna put that in the bag.
I have a question. So this just popped into my brain. It just came up. Mike Slipko. And I don't know if Mikey gets to watch very often. We've been friends on Facebook and stuff forever, but he was a legend. Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, the stories that guy has, and just his involvement when Tiger first came to tour and all of that whole story. And I mean, he just had some unbelievable stories. Mikey, he talked,
Out of New York.
Yeah. Just
Put him
right out of New York.
Yeah, just drop him right in Texas.
Which was perfect, honestly, because I think that helped him. But here's my question, and this is not in any way to throw any shade at Mike, because again, absolute legend, always took great care of all of his accounts, awesome guy. But what do you do now as kind of a new generation guy? What do you see as being the big difference between a guy like yourself and a guy like Mike?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. It's changing a little bit. I think the expectation more on what an OSR does, and they're a lot more hands-on than what maybe the traditional, even my dad's generation would do. I'm doing a lot more events. I'm a lot more in front of people, I would say, than more. I mean, we do more indoor events this year, and we're going to have a couple more going into the end of the year and early next year. That's a big one. I think territories are getting a little bit bigger too. I just think now it's just being more flexible over what it was previously. When my dad was an OSR, for example, he only had green grass that counts in one territory, and then in the other part of his territory was all the off course. Where for me, it's like, hey, you got to be flexible. You have to be able to do both sides of the territory. You have to be able to talk to the guy from the Muni. You got to be able to talk to the guy over at Midland Country Club. You got to be able to talk to Jared over at Golf Headquarters, just like the way you would talk to Jeff Barton over at Preston Trail. So I think now it's creating a more flexible OSR versus it was in the past. Probably is the best way.
Is it kind of a young man's game now?
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
It is,
I would assume like the older that you get, these territories start to become not big, but humongous, right?
Yeah. Oh, and it's not even just the geographic size of the territory; it's the volume of the territory.
Yeah.
I mean, once, let's say Midland, for example, starts to grow their area by 40%, you got to focus more on Midland. But then what happens to Tulsa or what happens to Dallas? So,
Right.
It's a balance of those things. There's a lot of time on the road. So it is getting it be a younger man's game just by the amount of miles you're putting out there and the amount of hotels you're staying in.
Yeah. You know, I think something's interesting in y'all's world, and I think, by the way, you do a great job of balancing it. And, you know, I know for us, we try to be an account that'll kind of fill in on our own, but it was interesting as we were going through our stuff this year. We didn't order any putters.
No.
It was like, what? You know, and it's things like that are, you know, guys like me, we'll just fan it.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just completely miss it. And I'm sure that that's a lot of pressure on you to juggle all that, right? Is to try to figure out, okay, what am I missing? Where am I missing it? And if I don't go see old boy over here at this golf course, there is zero chance he'll order anything.
Yeah.
So I got to get over there and get an order, right? It's things like that, trying to juggle that, because especially I'm assuming, I don't know this, but, you know, I worked for Lisa for so long, and I know you know her, but she's always on top of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And us guys, we get more centrally focused on the primary goal, which is talking to the people and doing the things. And you might look up and you're missing 4 sets of irons and so on and so forth, right? It slips through the cracks. You're just so focused on being busy or whatever. And whereas she multitasks so much better. I think that's so fascinating, but also that's got to be the most difficult part of the job.
Oh,
right?
it is.
Is going and doing that.
Well, I think the most difficult, the one thing to counteract that's just have your numbers. I mean, that was the difference of show. You was just saying, hey, Jay, like, dude, we did this many putters in 2023, and why didn't we do any? I didn't get a PO, man, or I didn't get permission. And that's the biggest thing too. Is, I mean, you want to make sure that they have the right product, but the most important thing too is you want to make sure that they know it's coming. Sure. Because I think you guys can say this better than anybody. When people are just dropping off random product at your front door, there's a lot of questions like, why am I getting this? So it's really making sure that there's that open line of communication where you can text your guy, or just, even if we know, like, for example, you're never here on Wednesdays. So Jared, stop there on Wednesday. You have no Hot Metal Pros. You have no Mizuno Pro 245s. I don't know what you do with putters, but you flew through them. What can we do? Yeah. And just because, I mean, there's going to be times where you don't see that. You have 17 different brands that you're bringing in. And so that's your job as the OSR to tell them, hey, I just stopped in, or I just spoke with Cody, or anybody, and we're low on this. Do I have the green light for it? And you're very, very good about going, yeah, dude, ship it over.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing is, and it's gotten worse the older I get, is we had those putters on order. Banned it.
It happens.
You had them on a order confirmation, and my only job was to send over, but forgot. Just banned it.
You know what, though? At least we knew we did it by the book.
Yeah, for sure. But
cup half full.
Yeah.
Oh, things happen.
But those are those moments you're like,
good.
Idiot.
And those putters are sick.
But you know what,
They
though?
are
That's
sick.
going to continue to happen. There's going to be moments where you bash your head on the wall. There's going to be moments I bash my head on the wall. There's going to be moments we both bash our heads into the same wall. Mm-hmm. That's
For
just
sure.
the beauty of being in business.
Well, and I love how you said it. You know, it takes a relationship, and this is, you know, for everybody out there, this is behind the curtain type stuff, right? I mean, it takes such a relationship, and you know, I think you and I, you know, you might get upset, I may get upset, but at the end of the day, we've still got a relationship that we're going to do business, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that's super important, is to not take it personal, I guess is the best way to say it. But also to have that type of brother type relationship where, you bust my chops, I'm like, well, that was a good one, Rich.
Oh yeah, you got to be able to
yeah.
chirp.
And
You got to
then-
be able to chirp.
Yeah,
But
you gotta
there's-
go back and
But
forth,
there's
right?
that moment though, and I mean, anytime we're in a meeting, the first 5 minutes, oh man, good to see you. How's Michigan doing? Like, they look
Yeah.
good or they look bad or whatever it is. And then there's that, all right, business time.
Yeah.
Let's talk shop real quick. Let's 15, 20 minutes. We got to really hash some things out. No joking. And then we might be able to get back into it later. But for now, let's really dial it in. So I think that's the biggest thing is learning everyone's personality and then taking that and turning it into a professional conversation because the conversations and how I talk to you isn't going to be the same as how I have a conversation with maybe a shop in Dallas. You and I have a very close relationship. We have a very open, honest relationship, very much like being teammates on a sports team.
Sure.
And it's very, very good. But, Candy over at Golf Headquarters in Lubbock, very, very sweet, super nice. I'm not going to have the same conversations with her that I'm going to have here.
Yeah, it's business.
Exactly. It's strictly business, then how the grandkids doing, how's the
Right.
family doing, things like that. But here it's going to be talking football, talking just the weather out here. How's our golf game looking, and how much are we making fun of people in here today? So it's just, you got to be able to balance it on and kind of be flexible and kind of a chameleon in a way.
Yeah. You're a big football guy, which we do have fun with that. We have picks today.
We do have picks.
We got to make some picks at the end. We'll do that.
Yeah, we
Can't
do.
forget. I want to talk about his stuff.
I do too, and that's where I was going to kind of transition. Me and Jared made a video. We were hitting the new JPX line, and incredible, by the way. And we'll dive into that. But something that we talked about in there is about Mizuno and how you guys have been gaining market share in the game improvement side. Mizuno, everybody watching, everybody that will watch this and listen to this knows about Mizuno in the player side. And you may not know much about it, but you know that Mizuno has always competed at the very top of golf. The legendary MP line, right? If you know anything about Mizuno golf, it's their forged 1025E carbon steel irons. They feel phenomenal. They always have, and they always will. But in the past, probably 10 to 15 years, is that fair?
Yeah.
Mizuno has really been gaining market share in the game improvement side or the forgiving iron side. And in the video I talked about, I remember the JPX Easy line is where it kind of started to really take off is they were like, okay, we're going to really dive into this and try to gain some market share in that area. And then just from that point, it seems like every year you have just been taking a tick off on the market. And now with the 925 line, Ridge, it's ridiculous.
Oh man, it's been so 2 weeks ago was the first time I got to get my hands on it and do fittings myself. When we launch a new product, I'm not getting really into the simulators. I'm not getting out to the bays because I got to make sure that you guys have stuff to sell before we get to launch. But as we get into the fall, I start to get to do some fittings and I get to start to see some numbers and compare and contrast. And this new 925 series is unbelievable. Just the amount of spin we're able to generate on it, the height increases we're seeing on it without losing feel.
Sure.
And I think that's the most important thing that Mizuno does when we're making a golf club. Our tagline has always been nothing feels like a Mizuno. And what's cool about that tagline is we didn't come up with it. It's our tagline now, but the people and everyone who golfs kind of gave us that name because of the great feel of the Mizuno Pro line. But that feeling of nothing feels like a Mizuno goes into our irons, our wedges, our golf balls, our drivers, our JPX line. So that was really what kind of separated us from everyone else 8 years ago with the 900 hot metal was that we were making a product that not only was it performing in the bays as well as everyone else, it felt unlike anything else in the market.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going to separate Mizuno from everyone else.
I think it already has. Because we know, like, when we got those first probably 4 or 5 sets of 925s in, I think we got 3 or 4 sets of the pros. 3 sets of the pros went in one day.
Wow.
And it was probably guys around that 10 to 15 that were like, I've played game improvement irons. I just don't like just quite how offset they are, how bulky they are. I was like, we should probably hit the 925 Pro because it's going to offer you that forgiveness, but you're going to get a little thinner iron, less offset. And as your game improves, you'll still be playing this iron down into 5, 1, scratch. Very easy to work that ball.
Yeah, and that's really one of the biggest things in golf in general, I don't think people understand is looks matter.
Yeah.
Golf is one of the few things in life where you can say, I don't like the way this looks, and no one's going to yell at you for it. It's just, you know what, that's fine, that's right. And at Mizuno, we understood that, especially with the Hot Metal Pro line. There's so many golfers out there who may have been scratch at one point or may have been a single-digit handicap, but life hits them. Mm-hmm. You know, you get older, family starts to become a bigger priority, work becomes a bigger priority, and so you want to play this game and get a little bit more forgiveness, but you don't want to look down at a shovel.
Sure.
And that's where the Hot Metal Pro has done really well, is because it gives you that ability to have all the forgiveness built in that JPX offers with the minimal offset, so that you can still play that little right to left shot that you still have in your bag, or you still can play that little draw around a tree if you need it. And that's the beauty of the 925 line. We have a model for pretty much every level of golfer.
Yeah.
The thing that comes to mind most for me whenever I'm thinking about Mizuno is that nowadays, especially, you can market anything into somebody's hands.
Yeah.
If you put it out there and you do enough of advertising and you do it the right way, you can get anything no matter how bad the product is. Mizuno just got their stuff in people's hands by being better. They're not out there blasting it everywhere saying you have to play this is the best thing ever. They just did it by performance. And that's what is most impressive to me, is that you didn't have to trick people to get it in their hands.
No, you know, at Mizuno, we always try to be very transparent. We are not a marketing company. I get asked that constantly. Why don't you guys do more commercials? Why don't you do more, sign more guys on tour? And at the end of the day, you have to pay that somewhere. You know, if you sign, let's say, X tour player for $4 million, you're going to have to take that cost and equate it somewhere. And at Mizuno, we always put our excess costs into R&D, into research and development, into different shaft offerings. So we know if we can give you guys a product that feels and performs just as good as anyone else on the market, if we're just going unbiased and we give you guys more shafts than any other company, we're going to get our fair share of sales. We don't need to market.
I think that's been huge too, not to interrupt you, but I think that's been a huge advantage in Mizuno's point of view that we've seen a lot of more companies start to do, is the no upcharge shafts.
Yeah.
There's a huge list with Mizuno that, hey, is this shaft an upcharge? No, you can get it straight in at this price. And that's, you're seeing a lot of companies come on board with that, of making room to like, oh crap, we have to compete with that, because if they come to our version of the iron, it's a $25, $40 upcharge. Where Mizuno, it's like, no, it is what it is.
Yeah, not even graphite. And I think that's the one thing, you know, we've been bringing in MMT's 85 stiff stock, and they just fly off the shelves. So to have that same cost point, even in a graphite, is a huge game changer for us, because at Mizuno, we understand not everyone plays the same shaft. This isn't the 2000s where we throw a Uniflex shaft in or a DGS3 and call it a day. We don't think you should be punished because you have to play a lighter profile, you have to play a lighter weight. So for us to have I think right now in your card over there, you have 62 shafts, different flex and links. So to be able to have that big of a catalog at no upcharge really does make it easier to sell.
It's fantastic.
Well, and it makes it easier to perform.
Oh yeah.
You know, as a player, you have the confidence of knowing, man, I got the best thing for me, and it didn't cost me any extra. So, you know, there's some people out there that well, we'll get back to that. There's some people out there that charge it anyway, right?
There is.
You know, kind of crazy. But I digress. Here's another interesting thing about Mizuno, talking about that tour stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So Mike Slipko told me this story years and years ago. So if I get any of it wrong, just tell me. But there was a club company that no longer does any clubs, and we'll let people figure out who that was, that basically went out and bought all your irons in the DFW area to basically tear them apart and see how the heck do they do this, right? And they ended up at this very interesting place in DFW that the number one player in the world, and maybe the number one player of all time, arguably, right, went all the time to do his club testing. And what's interesting about this story, that was years later, right? And Tiger started out playing MP14, the MP series and MP14, which I don't know if anybody remembers that iron set, but oh my gosh, you talk about butter.
Butter knives.
Yeah, well, butter knives, and they felt like
butter.
hot knife through butter, right? So they were unbelievable irons. And Slipco, I guess, was part of the team or was the guy that was talking to Tiger and to Earl about everything. And Tiger's like, I want those irons. I want to play those. And Earl's like, well, we got X amount from Titleist, so where's Mizuno at? And Mike's like, straight up, well, we don't have a 14 club deal. Either you play the iron or you don't. It's really that.
Yeah.
Like, we're the best iron.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to a substandard iron relative to ours, go ahead. Right? But we're not going to pay for that. Yeah. Is that true?
I couldn't confirm that exact story. Anytime you bring up that name at the Mizuno R&D world, everyone just zips it.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. You know, the coolest part when you work in a customer service is being able, if you can just become friends with the R&D team and let them trust you enough to where you're not going to sleek anything, you can learn a lot of really cool stuff and see some product that's coming out 2-3 years from now. But on that particular topic, nothing got out. I would ask them questions about it. You know, I started at Mizuno when Nike got out of the golf business. So Tiger was a free agent. And I knew the whole story behind the MP14s, and Tiger used to play them and all that. So I would try to find out my information. Nothing. Couldn't find out a word. And the guys that trusted me, right, I've known them for now 7-8 years, to this day, will not confirm nor deny a single thing about that guy.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm just telling you right now, those Titleist 660s or TW irons, whatever they were, that are worth $1 gazillion if you have them now. Those looked an awful lot like MP14s. And I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm saying those Nike blades that come out, they looked a lot like MP14 boys. I mean, I'm just letting y'all know. And
the T-dubs.
The TW irons look a lot like
that very sharp toe.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? And it's for all intents and purposes. And I think this is really more of a testament to your company and how good this iron. I mean, dude, MP14. I was in high school, boys. We're talking 97, 98, 96, somewhere in that range. I mean, my best friend in the world, best player I knew at the time, Josh Duckworth, played MP14s. We were in high school.
I mean, even now when I
and that profile's still around, bro.
Well, even now when I do fittings, I'll be doing a fitting, and a guy's like, I want to swap out my blades. Great, what are you playing? MP33s. I just roll my eyes every time because that's one of the greatest irons Mizuno's ever made. And when a guy plays that profile, he doesn't want to go away from it.
So, like, which brings up a great question, right? In the muscle back platform, how much can really change with as little of your work as you're working with in that MB profile?
Well, I mean, the lack of technology is the technology of a muscle back.
Correct. And that's, I guess, the point I'm trying to make is, like, from MP14, obviously grooves have changed. MP33 grooves have changed. But, man, that classic profile hasn't really changed.
No. You know, when we make a Mizuno Pro iron, there's certain parameters and rules that we have to follow because certain golfers have just become acclimated to what a Mizuno Pro looks like. So we have to have the same offset on all Mizuno Pros since MP33. We have to have the same leading edge as, let's say, hypothetically, the 29. They're always taking some of the old traditional products that we've built over the years and combining it and making sure that they stay consistent. You might see a couple adjustments maybe with where we put the mass behind the face to change the feel of the golf ball, or maybe the blade length to maybe get a more penetrating ball flight.
Sure.
But a lot of what you change on a muscle back just comes from direct feedback from the tour. So, for example, when we talk to the tour guys on some of the new Mizuno Pro lines, they wanted more bounce. Just with what the tour players are playing now, they want something with a little bit higher bounce. So we adjusted the bounce on it. But you won't see us changing, completely revamping how we forge it and going, oh, this is a brand new 1023 high carbon forge that's forged out of Hiroshima, Japan, instead of, or Tokyo, Japan, instead of Hiroshima, Japan. we're always going to stick to what's classic.
Sure.
1025 mild carbon steel, grain flow forged out of Hiroshima.
Yep. Because that's who you guys are.
Exactly.
So why change your identity to?
Well, and I'll tell you this: what I think is super cool about your pro line. You know, we've got the. Don't let me get them wrong. 45, 43, 41.
You got it.
Yep.
Right. So you've got a 41, which is a muscle back, the 43, which is more of a cavity, and then the 45, which is this super techy. In my opinion, in that category, it is the best iron you can buy. That Mizuno 245 is as good as it gets.
Can we just also say that it's a complete grain flow forged head, correct?
The 245. The neck and face is grain flow forged HD. So the biggest thing about when you're forging a golf club, it's maintaining the grain structure's integrity. So when you look at steel under a microscope, it's got grain in there like wood. So with grain flow forged, we make sure all that grain flows the same way. So on the 245, the neck and face is still grain flow forged. Then we laser weld the back piece on there that has the tungsten in the sole to help get the higher flight. But the most important thing about that club is, even though it's a player's distance iron and a hollow body construction, having that grain flow forged gives us the ability to keep our feel, but also gives us the ability to adjust that club. Because a lot of the times when you do a forged golf club, is the neck forged or just the face, or sometimes even just the back piece forged?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I mean, you'll see irons that say forged on them, and it's a portion of the club that's forged. And here's where I was going with that. In your pro line, folks, if you want to blend all three of those clubs, the top lines all look identical. It's such a beautiful flow. So if you want to put a 241 and then you want to get crazy and put a 243 7 iron in there just because you want to, and then if you want to do a 4, 5, and 6 in the 45, get at it.
And they're progressive offset too.
Yeah.
So being able to, when you adjust the lofts to line up, because all three have a different loft, when you adjust those lofts, the offsets will line up. So the fact that Mizuno has took the extra step to say, hey, these are customizable and you can put any three of these models in your bag, and like you were saying, they're not going to look different at a dress, is a game changer.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Whole different ball game, and they just feel amazing. I want to go back to that hot metal for just a second. I mean, I could sit here probably till 6 o'clock and talk about this stuff because, one, we have, and I can't express this enough, we have an absolute expert in the field in you sitting here with us. And again, if you ever get the opportunity to do a fitting with Ridge, I promise you'll go away from that going, dang, that guy knows his stuff. But let's get back to the hot metal for 1 second. We've got a game improvement iron that feels like, quite frankly, it feels like nothing that that's out there, right? It's soft.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a click machine. It's just got this unbelievable feel to it. And on hot metal specifically, dude, what you guys did to get that ball spinning, that is a game changer.
That was absolutely, and that was the first thing I said when they told me about it.
Yeah. They still go far,
Sure.
but bro, they stop.
That's the biggest challenge in this market today. You saw over the last couple of years more HL models being brought into the market. And I would be honest, the first year of HL, even with me as a fitter, I didn't know where it fit into kind of where people wanted it. I just kind of pigeonholed it towards certain people. But then you start looking at, oh, wait a minute, we're getting stopping power now. We're actually playing darts now. We're not playing croquet out here on the golf course.
Right.
And this new 925 hot metal, this is the first time we've ever had a multi-construction material in a golf club for a JPX line. We've been able to do a lot of great things with a one-piece chromoly iron, and now we added tungsten into the sole, and it's for that exact reason. When you look at our golf clubs, it's a 28-degree 7 iron, which is, what, a 5 iron back in the day?
Yeah.
So with everyone playing a stronger loft like that, you're seeing less spin, and you're seeing lower launch, which equates to the ball rolling more. So for us, we understood with 925 hot metal, distance is always going to be at the number one priority. But how are we going to get that ball to stop? How are we going to get that ball to sit right where we hit it so that we give ourselves a decent looking putt at birdie versus hitting it 15 feet from the hole and having a 60-foot putt for birdie. And so adding that tungsten into that golf club really just changed the way that we can see spin. I had a guy the other day who's a 923 guy, Hot Metal Pro. He's a staff player of mine, so I went and did some testing with him. And 925 to 923, it was about almost 1.5 degrees difference in launch angle with about a 400 difference in spin. I mean,
Game changer.
It was huge.
And he probably didn't lose a yard.
We actually gained a couple yards.
That's
We
what I
gained
was
about
going to
3.
say. Yeah. He probably got almost half a club out of it.
He was getting a little frustrated because he's like, you just keep sending me distance irons. I'm like, man, we're just hitting it higher.
Yeah. Well, we're getting more carry. And I mean, it's one of the things that we fight a lot here. I don't know if you see it as much in DFW. I know you guys deal with wind, but carry in your neck of the woods is of paramount importance. You got to get that ball up and carrying because the air's heavier there. You're not going to hit it a spar. Your elevation, believe it or not, is closer to sea level, whereas ours is like 2,700 feet.
Yeah.
So we're going to fly the ball out here a little further than you will in DFW. But carrying that ball, getting that ball up and carrying is of paramount importance. Here, the misconception is, well, we play in the wind and we have firmer turf conditions, so we got to hit it low and let it run. Well, if you just look at, if you launch it here at this angle, right, and it takes off and it goes here and it falls out of the air, it's going to hit the ground. And what does the ground produce? Friction.
Yeah.
It's working against the ball going further. You launch another ball here, right? We'll do it this way. You launch another ball high, right? The carry is going to be so much further, and we don't have the friction of the ground working against us.
Correct.
Yeah. So it just makes sense that we're going to hit a little further so long as we control what? That spin variable, which you did.
Yes.
I think so many people, if you're going to spin it super low at 4,500 on a TrackMan or a Foresight unit, if you're going to spin it at 4,500 with a game improvement iron, you better have launch with it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough speed in your swing to hold that ball in the air. It's literally going to fall out of the air. So you're actually losing yardage. Those people may have been hitting it further than they ever did before. They're going to hit it even further now with more performance.
Exactly.
That's the key. And that's what Mizuno always has in the forefront of the R&D department. How can we give the players what they want, which is more distance, right? And great feel, but it also has to perform like a golf club.
Correct. We can't just, and this is, we're kind of talking about a little bit about the junior route, and we were talking about how we're growing the game. But the most important thing about growing the game, and that one reason, like I brought this up because I love my dad does it this way, you got to do it the right way. Everything in golf has to be done the right way, or it'll be a very small sample of success, and then you'll just become an afterthought. And the one thing about Mizuno, when it comes to designing an iron, it's always done the right way. We're not pulling a lever knowing that we're going to take away feel from a customer just to get you a couple extra yards. We're not going to take away a couple different shaft profiles to make us a couple extra bucks because we know that it's going to benefit us. Anything that Mizuno does to change a golf club, we're doing it without saying, hey, we're going to sacrifice feel, we're going to sacrifice a look of something to perform. So that's been probably the biggest surprise for me watching how Mizuno designs golf clubs, is how they don't lose any of the integrity of what they do or are pulling away something that Mizuno's known for to just hit a certain number.
Absolutely. And there was a time, and I remember this time. I know you probably will too. But, there was a time, Ridge, where if we were fitting, we had to look at somebody and tell them, listen, you got to give to get. So if you want to hit it straighter, you're going to have to give up some yardage.
Yeah.
Because we got to increase your spin to hold it there, right?
Yep.
Or if you want to hit it further, I can check that box for you. But you're going to have to sacrifice some accuracy.
Exactly.
You're not going to be in a 5-yard window anymore. You're going to be in a 15-yard window. We don't have to say that anymore because club companies like Mizuno came along and said, wait a minute, there's got to be a way to hit it further but have more accuracy.
And that's where the new technology is going. As a golf club company, we've all been maxed out at COR in the middle of the face. So like anyone saying, oh, we got more ball speed in the center, Either they're not at that COR limit or they're lying to you. So now the name of the game is how do we get that COR across the entire face? And it's a new measurement called core area. It's the average COR of the entire face. And what manufacturers are able to do now and how they're able to maintain ball speeds on that shot off the toe or maybe a little bit on the inside of the heel and still maintain the spin has been unbelievable. And that's really where the biggest change in technology is going. Clubs are going higher, which because they're going higher, we can make the law stronger to make them go further. But the retention of ball speed and accuracy with these golf clubs without losing any distance and feel has just been a huge game changer for all of us.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in that video, Clinton, I couldn't swing very much. You did a lot of the swinging. But didn't you slap one right off the toe and it was still, I think I even made mention of it in the video.
Yeah.
You could tell he just toe slapped it and it still went a good number.
Yeah.
And didn't just fall out of the air. I mean, we're used to seeing that go hard left and no spin and half the yardage.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's changed. And by the way, you can get that in Hot Metal and Hot Metal Pro, but they also have that in one of the best feeling forgings on the planet in the 245 and 243. You can get that same performance value out of those.
Oh yeah, and if you look on the tour players' bags, is there still blades being played out there? Yes. But look at how many players are now going to a combo set where they're going a little thicker. They're going with something that's got a little bit more forgiveness to it. The difference in first and second place on tour now is what, $1 million?
Yeah.
I mean, these purses these guys are playing for now is just ridiculous. And because of that, a lot of these tour players are checking their egos out the door saying, hey, if the difference in me making 10th versus me making 25th is I got to go to a club that's a little bit thicker, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest thing, though, is that y'all kept the top line the same.
We did.
Is they don't even really see that, and I guess they see it when the caddy hands it to them. But once they set up to the ball, they don't see that thickness.
That is probably, it always blows my mind when we do get a new product. That's the first thing I do. As soon as I get something, I sit it down.
Yeah.
Because I'm very picky about what I'm looking down at, especially the transition from neck to the face, up there at the toes. So my eyes, I always just kind of go through this little checklist when I'm looking at a club. And there's never been one at Mizuno, even the HL, which is a bigger club, a little bit more offset, wider sole, where I just go, I don't know about that. It's always, oh man, it just falls off the back. I can't see the sole. It sits up and lines up to the ball well. And that's really important. So it's really good to see from the brand that I work for that Mizuno takes so much extra effort to making sure that when you're looking down at something, it has that look aesthetically that you're looking for.
Yeah, you're getting everything you need, but you're also getting to keep the look you love.
Yeah. Well, and as a club company, I think Mizuno's always done a phenomenal job of listening to the consumer. I mean, you said it best earlier, your tagline, y'all got that from the consumer.
Yeah.
It wasn't an internal thing that, Bob in marketing said, we got to do this, right? It was from the people. And I'll give the best example that I know. I believe it was the MX-23 series that had that transitional CG essentially, but basically they widened the sole as you went back up through the irons, but it was a player-looking iron. The issue was in the 4 and 5, you could see the back, right, from the top line. And again, that is the biggest deal that you guys changed, because I don't recall one after that.
No.
That had, and I may have got the iron model wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's close.
It's
MX-23, I think, was
it was right around that line. And Mizuno, we do that a lot. For me, for example, when I started Mizuno, it was the JPX 900 series and the MP64s, I think was the iron that we had at the time. And if you asked anyone around Mizuno, when I was in customer service at the time, it was our pitching wedge. Our pitching wedge just looked a little different than the other pitching wedges. And the guy who designed them in R&D at the time had a really, he really liked the look of the old school I2 wedge and the old Ping Eye wedge. And so because of that, if you looked at our pitching wedges, it was really a little bit sharper than what the other ones look like. So when you look at our pitching wedges now, as we've gotten feedback from people and listened more, it looks more like a wedge you bought off the rack at a 46 versus just a pitching wedge that comes with a set. And that comes directly from feedback from consumers and tour players.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that, by the way. I mean, just that traditional look. And that the other thing that you mentioned a minute ago is that transition from the hosel to the face, or the, that little juncture area there. That is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. Forever, it was hard for me to even consider hitting the Mizuno, and you're going to think this is nuts. Most people do. But from the hosel to where the grooves started, it just looked like, to me, from the top, that the grooves went straight into the hosel. And it just made my brain explode.
Hosel rockets.
But you know what? That's golf.
Yeah, for sure.
golf.
I mean, it has to look right.
As
It
a
has
fitter,
to.
how many times we've been fitting somebody and they're flushing it and the numbers are perfect? How's it feel, man? It's all right. Well, what's wrong? I just doesn't feel right, or just doesn't look right. Yep, totally understand. Try this one. There's sometimes this game is way too mental. We're not playing like, if we go out and play, I'm not playing you two. I'm playing me, the course, and my handicap. And if I'm looking down at something and my brain I'm thinking about the club versus the shot, I've already lost.
Yeah.
So if there's a couple times, and it can get frustrating sometimes. Mr. Haberkamp, you need a graphite, but it's black. I want it to be silver. I know, Mr. Haberkamp, but you're hitting it 20 yards further. I promise you this is worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to be able to battle that look as a fitter, but also as a brand, to make sure that we make a club that looks good for everyone.
That is one of the more frustrating things, is when we have the perfect shaft and it's not the right color.
That happens a lot. I know.
And I've actually had people take a shaft that doesn't fit as good. In fact, probably 20-25% worse, because it's the right color. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I think it's frustrating.
But I get it.
I do too.
That's the weird part.
I think the most frustrating part as a fitter, though, is when you find the club for somebody, and like you said, they're flushing it. Their numbers are perfect, and like, I just don't like the way it looks. Man, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. You get so invested in these fittings.
You're like, oh gosh, we found it, and he's like, no, we didn't.
Yeah.
All right, back to square one.
Luckily, they'll tell you fairly quickly. I mean,
That's true.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned, I love doing this, and I tell anyone I'm fitting with them, like if they're learning from me, I'm like, just watch. You're gonna know when you're heading in the right direction within 2 swings of putting someone in a new shaft. You're gonna see them go, and look down at the club, or it just starts to sound a little different. It's like their body language changes.
Sure,
And they're,
sure.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere where they like it. They like the looks. They like the numbers. But then there's the times you see it and you're peering it, but you just see them kind of just halfway, kind of just messing around with it.
It's all right.
And that's I will say that is so frustrating. Like, we're there. It's like, nope, he doesn't like it. I don't even need to ask him. He don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll look down at it with disgust, like heads are down,
Can you just hit it
shoulders
twice,
slumped.
please, sir? Just
Yeah.
watch.
Okay.
So we're going to tee this part up for you here. We already discussed a little bit how your buddy Jared over here fanned the PO for the putters. But let's talk putters and woods, man.
Let's do it.
This is a place where, well, let me start with this. Your wedges, since the MPR wedge 20 years ago, have been some of the most underrated wedges on planet Earth. Folks, you want to hit a good feeling wedge, hit a Mizuno wedge. You will not believe the feel coming off of those wedges.
Well, my question, I ask everybody this. You're playing forged irons, right? Both of you? Are you playing a forged wedge?
No.
Are you playing a forged wedge?
That's a great question, because now you got me all worried.
Yeah, but I mean that.
You're getting Mizuno wedges today,
Well,
bud.
give me a call. But
I know a guy.
but we always talk about wedges as being the most important part of the bag. That's where your touch, your feel, your consistency has to be at the top. But if we're playing that and we know forged is the way to get the most consistency and feel, why are we not playing a forged wedge? And I would say well over half the people that are watching this are not playing a forged wedge and think they are. And at Mizuno, we use the same forging technique, same materials that we do in our irons. And also offering, I mean, we got a bunch over here now with the S400 shaft in there, with the MTC Team's grip.
Well, Rich, whatsoever do you mean that they think they're playing forged wedges and they're not? Can you kind of fill in the customers here?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know if your wedge is forged, it's going to say it. I mean, it's going to say it. There's not a golf club on the market that is not a forged golf club that doesn't say
You have
forged
so
on
many
it.
people's heads exploding right now.
I know.
You don't even have to say another word. They're like, "Where's my bag? Where's my bag?"
Yeah.
Holy crap! This
Yeah.
whole time.
I mean, even now, it's the best kept secret in golf. I don't understand it, and that's one of the reasons I always bring it up and ask people, "Are you playing a forged
Hey,
wedge?"
Connor, timestamp this.
Okay.
Timestamp,
Yeah, it's.
triple stamp, double stamp.
I mean, it's a great question to ask anybody. You know, it's, are you playing a forged wedge? And you know, at Mizuno, we understand that forging is going to give you that ability. And so, if you love the way our irons feel, there's no reason you shouldn't be giving our irons or our wedges a chance as well. Because that same feel, the same grain flow Forged HD with the same copper underlay that goes in our irons and Mizuno Pro goes in our wedges as well.
The copper underlay. Nobody else is doing that.
No, that is a crazy story on how that came about. So, back in the 80s, we had a set of golf clubs called the MP29s. It's one of the greatest Mizuno irons ever made. And there was a Japanese model called the TN87s, the Tommy Nakajima 87s. And they were the exact same as the MP29s, but there was one difference. And it was that they would put a layer of copper under the TN87s, but it wasn't to make them feel better. It was to make the chrome plating stick to the face better. Because back in the 80s when they were making forged clubs, it was harder to keep that chrome plating to stick on the face. But Jeff Cook, our tour manager, as we were bringing out the MP20 line, we were talking about what can we do to make these clubs better. Jeff Cook interjected and said, bring back the copper underlay that the TN87s had. And Jeff Cook, he's our tour manager today, played on Mizuno staff all through the 80s and 90s on tour. He only would play the TN87s, and it was because of this copper underlay. So we went and tested it. And if you go to R&D world, everything has to be quantified. If you're going to change something at Mizuno, especially something when it comes to a marketing strategy like a copper underlay, we have to be able to quantify it. And the R&D team could not quantifiably show a difference between a copper underlay and a non-copper underlay. But we took it a step further, and we went and did a blind test. So we took a dozen tour players, and then we took about 36 players from single digit all the way up to a bogey golfer. And I was somehow part of this test and didn't know it. And they made you hit 5 golf balls with one golf club, and then 5 golf balls with another golf club. And it was just a simple MP18 muscle back. One had a black ferrule, one had a white ferrule. That was the only difference between the two. And I remember distinctly telling Cooper, our testing guy, I don't know what you did, but this club feels different. I don't know why. And 6 months later, we announced the Mizuno
Different
Pro
isn't
line.
good?
Yeah, it just felt softer. It just felt like the club it felt like the golf ball stuck to the face just for that extra second.
There's that mush.
Yeah, exactly. And it just rung. And so when they're explaining just why they did the copper underlay, they told us of the 50 people we tested, all 50 said that they could feel a difference between the copper underlay and non-copper underlay. And all 50 preferred the feel of the copper underlay.
Wow.
So even though we couldn't quantify it from a numbers perspective with our harmonic impact testing or our numbers, when we took it to the field and took it to the golfer itself, we could totally see just a massive change in feel just from the feedback we're getting from the golfers. And that's why you still see the Mizuno Pro Copper all through the lines from that test right there. So even though we can't quantify some things in feel sometimes we just have to go with what our gut tells us.
So I'll tell you my favorite Mizuno moment, and it kind of goes in along with that story. But my favorite Mizuno moment was when you very first were rolling out the optimizer. Mm-hmm. I was part of a group that got to go to Vegas and do all of that, and what an awesome experience that was. We got to test it out, poke holes, ask questions, right? Like, it was such a cool experience. Didn't hurt we were in Vegas either, right? I mean, that was fun too. But anyway, we kind of the same thing. We got to go out to a range and test new product and try the optimizer. And again, ask all the questions we could ask. But in that meeting, we were having like a informative session, right? Where your VP of sales or whatever was talking with us, and this stat blew my mind. The simplicity behind the forging is there, right? But the care and the amount of money that it takes to produce an iron that you guys make is more than anyone else on the market. And then you don't go and gouge your consumer. You know? And that says so much about that company. I'll never forget that. And he asked all of us what we thought the most expensive iron on the market was. And the vast majority of us said Titleist AP2. At the time, it had as much tech as anybody, right? And, had the forging and all that. He's like, no.
Well, I mean,
it's ours.
You can see it in the way Mizuno. If you ask us, where do you forge your forging heads at? Chuokoyo in Hiroshima, Japan. Ask any other brand, where do you forge your irons?
No clue.
I don't know. How did it start there? I could tell you, like, for example, our relationship with our forging factory, they forge 3 things. They forge bullet train parts, which hopefully one of these days we'll get a bullet train out here to Midland to Dallas. So it takes me 2 hours to get here instead of 5.
That'd be sick.
That'd be awesome. But they also forge high-end Lexus car parts and golf clubs. And because of that, just having that relationship, and it's a handshake agreement. There's no paperwork. There's no contract that we sign every year saying that we're going to do this. The Japanese are very just about by your word. So a handshake agreement has lasted now almost 75 years.
Love that, dude.
But being able to be that transparent and saying, hey, here's how we make our irons. Here's a 30-minute YouTube video to show you from step 1 to all the way through, seeing how many hands touch it. I think now it's like 15 pairs of hands touch a set of golf clubs before they ship out to get built. So it's that attention to detail, and it's having that logistics. It is going to make it a lot more expensive because, I mean, we can go to different places, we can go use different materials, but we understand that those little things are what separate us from everyone else.
Well, just for the viewers that are watching that will watch and listen, go through that process. It starts say just an MP iron head starts in Japan, and then go through the process of how it gets to us.
Yeah, so everything we'll start from the scrapyard. Like, it literally starts in a big, just raw material point where they take 20-foot ingots of 1025 elite mild carbon steel, and you cut them down to about a 5-6 inch billet. And then from there, they go through, you heat them up, you go through a bend and stretch. So they'll take them through, they heat them up, they bend them to where they look like a golf club, then they stretch them out. What you're doing when you stretch it out is you're making sure all those grains line up. The second that we line those grains up, you go through its primary forging, and you get the shape of a golf club. And then from there, it goes into a secondary forging. That's where we add, and just the more you forge it, the tighter you're making that grain structure. We start adding the grooves in there, and then you clean them up. And the really cool thing is, before they leave, they have to be inspected and checked by Mizuno Master Craftsmen, which Mizuno Master Craftsmen, you don't get to immediately work on Mizuno golf clubs when you start working at Chuokoyo. It's the last highest honor to be able to work under a Mizuno Master Craftsman. And to be a Master Craftsman takes about 12 years.
Wow.
Takes about 2 years
Holy
of working
crap.
in the facility, just on on other parts. And then it's 10 years of 10 years of supervised labor. So someone's watching you as you forge all these golf clubs. And then after 12 years, you're now a Mizuno Master Craftsman.
That's crazy.
There's not many of them left.
So now the head is done.
Mm-hmm.
You got your production head. Where's it go from there?
Go straight to the factories, whether either the ones in the UK or it comes to the one in Braselton, Georgia. So they come directly to us. And then everything is assembled and built here in the United States. And the reason for that is that we can keep our tolerances tighter.
Sure.
Anytime that you get clubs built anywhere in a different country, you just don't have the quality control that you have. And sometimes swing weights will be off, not just from one set to another, but from a pitching wedge to a 9-iron or 7-iron to a 5-iron. So having the ability to bring everything in-house, it does add more cost because you have American labor, which costs a little bit more, but our tolerances are better, which because of that, the quality goes up.
Sure.
But that's why, to answer everyone's question of why you don't see 10 zillion commercials and then just wearing you out during a golf tournament on commercials, that's why.
Yep.
The money goes to the right
The
spot.
money
Exactly.
goes to that spot.
Yeah.
It goes to making sure that you're getting a high quality iron, a Mizuno quality iron every single freaking time. And what's super cool for us as a retailer of Mizuno product is when your custom clubs come in, we'll check them, but we don't have to.
They're right.
We know that if we tell Ridge, for an example, over email, hey, Ridge, really got to have this at D3. First of all, he's got it all memorized. He can do the math pretty quick in his head, and he could tell you, Jared, you can't get D3 out of this, which is a very important point. When you're a fitter, you've got to understand what can and cannot be done, right? You can't force the square peg into the round hole, so to speak. Yeah. And what I love about what you guys do is you have very specific weight profiles that you can and cannot use, right? So in other words, you can't use any more than 6 grams of weight in the tip section of an iron. That's just a swing weight trigger, a balanced thing, but it's a very important thing. If we tell Ridge it needs to be D4 and it comes in at D-aught, that's an issue. That's a
huge issue,
huge problem. That's an 8 gram deficiency in the head weight. And to Ridge's point, you have A weight heads, B weight heads, right? And you're not going to go to Mizuno and find a B weight head sitting in an A weight bin.
No,
it's never going to happen.
I think our tolerances right now are it's either 3 or 5 grams. I want to say it's 5 because we don't use more than 5 grams on a tip weight. And if it's off that tolerance, we ship them back. So
I believe that.
So before we even put them into manufacturing, anytime you get a head in, they always have a weight on it. We check that weight. And if it's out of tolerance, we ship it back. But it also gives us the ability. So let's say Jared does call me and say, hey, Ridge, I need this swing weight at C9. But the challenge is I'm using a CP2 jumbo grip, which is sometimes heavier than the shaft people are using. And he's like, hey, I need this swing weight here. I can either go to my guy and say, hey, do we have something heavy enough to do this? Or is this something that we just can't even do? So we always are flexible about that. I mean, our tolerance is about 1.5, 2 points of swing weight, just depends. But we'll always let you know. If you guys do request it, saying, hey, can't hit this, here's why.
Yeah. Well, and you're saying tolerance, right? But again, that's more of a disclaimer. It's very rare.
Yes, it is.
Very, very rare. I'm talking like, well, a lot of people are saying it's the rarest thing. Okay. We're not talking about, 1 in 1,000. It's like 1 in 10,000.
Yeah.
That they'll come in and be D3 as opposed to, or D1 as opposed to D3.
Yeah. And
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, it's very rare that y'all would miss that.
No. And the reason why we have a tolerance is just because no one calibrates everything as well as they should, or just different scales or different ways, Yeah. I have people who call me, for example, and say, hey, my lofts or my lies are off on this club. I want them 2 up and they're 3 up. And I can go back and say, well, when was the last time you checked your loft lie machine?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Are you using a Mitchell?
Yeah. It's like, are you, I got
Mitchell's
a digital.
going to be flatter.
Someone will go, I got a digital scale. Okay. When was the last time that you calibrated it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a computer. It should just work, right?
Yeah. Well, Mizuno, we calibrate our loft lie machines 3 times a day.
Yeah.
As soon as we walk in the door, as soon as we come back from lunch, and then right before we leave. So, for us, we always have these safeties in check. And I'm not saying that we're perfect. I mean, we have our issues in some things too, but we always try to rectify them. But when it comes to specs and when it comes to hitting a certain measurement, I'm very, very confident us to be able to hit that.
100%. 100%. They don't come in at the wrong loft. They don't come in at the wrong lie. It's just exceptionally, exceptionally rare.
Thank you. I appreciate
that. It's good stuff.
All right. To round it out, what can you tell us about the future?
The future at Mizuno, you're going to see a lot of exciting things coming. I mean, y'all saw the new revamped fitting system that we put in with the new shaft heads and the new shafts. You're going to be down the road. Y'all are going to be getting new wedge heads and wedge shafts to be able to add into that as well. So now that we're talking the whole little conversation about is your wedges forged, we can actually now go in there and do it with different shafts, graphite shafts, 110 gram, 105 gram, 130 grams. We're not just going to be handcuffed to a Tourist US4 or a KBS high rev. So we're going to be able to mix and match those. You're going to see, I think we need to have a separate conversation about some things coming in the spring.
Yeah.
There's some really, really cool things in some other categories Mizuno's adding that I wish I could share, but non-disclosures tell me I can't.
Well, this is a great, just a great teaser that we'll have to have Ridge back on in the spring when we can talk about some exciting things coming.
Absolutely.
Well, and there was, from the players' iron side of things, on the tour side, one of the things that you mentioned, and this may or may not happen, I don't know, right? But one of the things you had mentioned before is life cycles of product. Mm-hmm. That's important, man.
Very, very.
What is your life cycle on Pro and Hot Metal?
Hot Metal and Pro alternate cycles, so they stagger their launches, but they're each 2-year cycles. Everyone always asks me, when do irons get better? When do they always improve? If you're replacing your irons every 6-7 months, if you're playing every day, then maybe working every day, that's different. But if you're looking for that next big jump in an iron 6 months from now when you just got it, it's just not going to happen. So for us having a 2-year cycle, we can make sure that when we bring something to market, it's not just a new sticker or a new badge on it. It's actually something that's genuinely changed, and it gives us time to make sure that we go through all the details and we do it right. And then when we bring it to market, it's seamless. Mm-hmm. I'm going to knock on some wood when I say this. But we've done a really good job over the last couple launches of JPX of not calling you guys and saying, hey, I'm at Hot Metal Pro. I'm not going to have Hot Metal Pro till August of next year or whatever it is. We have done a really good job of making sure these launches are long enough to where we can plan out ahead and to make sure that we're giving the customers a product that's better and performs differently, but also make sure the availability is there so that we can actually put it in your hands versus, well, we'll have them ready for you before the spring starts.
Well, most people don't know what your poor company faced COVID and post-COVID, man. I mean, it was so brutal. What did y'all have, like 2 or 3 data breaches on the computer systems and they went down? Bro, it was so crazy because you already had that, you were already feeling the pinch from, the product getting here.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, man.
Being able to get it. And then once you could get it, our computer systems go down. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I thought you guys handled it with such grace, and you were always very, very good at communicating lead times, which is huge. People are okay if they have to wait. They just need to know how long.
Exactly.
If you tell them 2 weeks and it's 6, that's a problem.
Yeah, and if you're a fitter and you're over-promising and under-delivering, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And we at Mizuno understand, like, look, our lead times after that hack was 8 weeks. And
it was crazy.
And I got a lot of angry phone calls. I got a couple frustrated phone calls from here, all over the place. And my story never changed. Like, look, guys, this is where we're at. Like, we were hacked. We couldn't ship product for 2 weeks. I remember I was telling you a couple of times, like, are they built? They're built. Ship them. I can't make a label. I can't invoice them. And so, I mean, it really set us back. But, in the Mizuno way, though, it's just continue to underpromise, continue to over-deliver. And if we can change things, we can change things. And right now we're at 5 to 7 business days, which is
incredible.
It is. Oh my gosh. It is the best feeling in the world. Being at this last summer, we were at 2 to 3 weeks, which was really, really good from comparatively from COVID. But seeing us now, we've done a huge investment in our manufacturing facility. We've doubled our capacity. So now for us to be at 5 to 7 business days with it continuing to drop is really, really going to help out as we get into the season next year.
Well, dude, y'all were 2 to 3 days. For a long, long time.
I know.
And I'm confident. You guys will get back there one day. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But 5 to 7 still stupid.
They gave me a audacious goal when we were at our meetings that they want to be back to old days by 25.
By 25.
By 25.
Okay.
Now, and again, that's one of those, I'm not going to promise it, but we're seeing it go that way. I do miss the days when you'd call me on a Monday. All right, Jay, it's going to ship out Wednesday. You're going to have it in your hands Friday. And it was like clockwork.
Those were cool days, man.
Clockwork. It was to the point where Jared would call me on a Tuesday. Hey, Ridge, I need to change a grip. Can't. What do you mean you can't?
It's already built.
They're done. They're in a box, dude. And then the came more frustration of y'all built them too quick. You didn't do that, but like a lot of people would get frustrated they were built too quick versus.
Of course.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Find something to complain about. Eric Garza says, I love my Mizuno irons.
Let's go.
Yep. Thanks for the support, Eric.
Which ones is Eric playing? Does he?
Yeah,
any
that's what I
comment
wanna
on
know.
that? I wanna
Mr. Garza,
now.
what irons are you playing? He should comment here in a second. Exciting future. Because we kind of got a sneak peek into it, and we can't talk about it, but there's a lot of exciting stuff coming from Mizuno.
Oh, there is.
And we'll have to have you back on in the spring when we can talk about it.
I think,
Or whenever you're available to talk about it.
I think you and I will, when we turn these cameras off, we need to figure out a couple of events for here so that we can do some fittings in the Midland area, and then do some. I think we should have some filming, and this is up to y'all. If we can get a video to drop right around the PGA show,
We can do that easily. That's done.
Say when.
deal.
We're in.
Deal.
Yep. We can do that for sure. What an exciting episode.
Man. If you haven't ever hit Mizuno, if you're not playing Mizuno, just come try them. They're incredible. This new series is going to absolutely make your brain explode. Has Eric told us what he's playing yet?
He hasn't yet. Nope. He may have popped in, left a comment, and dropped back out. But he will tell us, and I'll let Ridge know when he does.
It's good to see that we got some Mizuno men on the chat though. Still,
We do, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, I think that's a big thing, man, is if once you go Mizuno, you never go back, right?
No, it's
like,
true.
It's pretty much how it is. If you try it once, you're going to like it. And, I'll tell you, have you seen this? Have you seen anybody out there that correlates it more to like baseball?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
a
so
lot of people do.
yeah, it's interesting how many people are like, Mizuno has golf clubs? It's like, yeah, they've been around a long time, but
Yeah. Oh man,
a lot of people don't know, but the quality of the baseball equipment too kind of helps pull that through, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's changing. Our golf gloves made by our baseball division. So it's like, wait, y'all make great baseball gloves. Yeah, go try our golf gloves. Same thing.
Yeah.
But it being a multi-sport company is very beneficial for us because it gives us the ability to chat with each other about what materials work better for this. And our baseball division, for example, they help us with gloves, but we've been helping them with bats because the hot metal bat or material we're using does really well in baseball bats. So having that multi-sport component to
Interesting.
it gives us the ability to really start helping each other out. Shoes. We're one of the best retailers of running shoes in the world. What's shoes made of? High quality, high dense foam and rubbers and different things like that. So when we start going to our golf ball division, or golf balls, we start talking to our shoe companies about what rubbers they use. Why do they use this? What's the higher, what can we use to make our balls improve more? So being that multi-sport company for Mizuno just gives us the ability to take that R&D component that makes us well known and take it just to the next level.
I have one more question for you because I forgot to ask it earlier, and I'm just curious. Do you guys still use boron?
That is an awesome question because in my sales, we got rid of the boron in the wedges this year.
Okay.
So a little background on the boron. We added the boron into our wedges back in 2017-ish, and it was just to create more durability on the groove. Because in those days, the shoulder of the groove was just so brittle with it being a forged wedge that we wanted to just make it a little stronger. So we added the boron, but boron has a very negative connotation. So this year we did actually take the boron out of the wedges. So yes, that was something we quietly did.
Okay.
But
Not so quiet now, is it?
no, I mean, if you're going to ask me, I'll be honest and transparent about it. So
absolutely.
yes, it was taken out. So if you notice on the wedges, even the T24 doesn't say grain flow forged boron; it just says grain flow forged.
It's what I noticed.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there are some people like Mr. Garza as an example. He may see that the new stuff doesn't say boron. There's a reason for that. And that it's just got, it's you know what? It's not optimal anymore.
Technology changes.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
the best
not
way to put
optimal
it.
anymore.
Garza plays 223s, and he says he gained 10 yards and is dialed in.
10 yards is crazy.
Let's go.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Must have went to golf headquarters and got the right shaft.
Yeah, he did. So
No upcharge, by the way.
speaking of multi-sport companies, let's talk football for a second before we close.
Let's talk some ball.
Mississippi State's got Arkansas this weekend. We played A&M really tough,
There you go.
but I think we're going to probably get ran over 2 weekends in a row.
Do you think you get smoked like a ham, or
that's
like
funny.
what are you thinking?
Yeah, we're going to just get completely ran over.
Are we in Starkville and we in Fayetteville?
We're in Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in Starksville again with A&M, and we actually played them really close. To my chagrin, I had a Hyundai on it with Z, and I got the line at 20. I first got it at 15.5, but it bumped to 20, and he lost the bet and had to give me the extra 5, but I didn't need it. We played them close enough. That was a good game, though. It was a really good game.
It was a great game.
Who's your team?
I'm a Tennessee fan.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was born
You all
in
had a
Nashville.
Great weekend.
Oh, I did. And then I got to watch my Titans just ruin it.
Yep.
Luckily,
So you do cross over to the Titans.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was born in Nashville. Like
Okay.
my very first Titans game was the Music City Miracle.
You were there?
I was there.
Oh my god.
So I was 8 years old, first NFL game of all time. I'm all mad. It's 13 seconds, and I will never forget. I was looking down, and I heard a scream, and I look up, and I can see Kevin Dyson sprinting down the sidelines. And yeah, that was my first Titans game. So obviously, you got to be a Titans fan after that.
Dude.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Was Eddie George there?
Yes.
Yeah. You got to be an Eddie George.
Air
fan.
McNair,
That guy was
Steve,
so
Eddie
dope.
George, Javon Curse.
Yeah.
Those were Bruce Matthews was still playing in those days. So yeah, fortunately, and unfortunately, I'm a big Titans guy.
So we have Tennessee in 2 weeks. We got Arkansas this weekend, UMass next weekend, and then Tennessee. Is that game at Tennessee?
I think it is in Knoxville. Yes.
Yeah. Who y'all play this weekend? Great win over Alabama this
It was a great win, and they got a bye week, which they need.
I was going to say, I didn't see him on here.
We finally got a little action on the offense. You know, we got a young offense, so give them a little bit of time to get prepared. We got Kentucky the very next week, which
That's a tough game this year.
Kentucky's always a weird game. I'm always confident going into the Kentucky game. It's like us with Florida. If you're a Tennessee fan, Florida just, I don't care how much you're
Scares you.
favored by, we never win it.
Yeah.
I can count on one hand how many times we've beaten Florida in my life.
So you seem like the true type of fan that will be honest no matter what.
Yes.
Do you think this year y'all are playoff contenders?
If we can figure out how to score points in the first half. I mean, we beat Bama 24-17, but we got goose egg for the third straight first half.
Wow.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
Luckily, Bama's down this year.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier for that. But, I mean, they're down. So, you know, any other team, if we're going to be a playoff team, especially when we got Georgia in about a month,
Yeah.
we got to stop this coming into halftime with a goose egg on the scoreboard, or we're going to get beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super athletic squad, though, man.
It is.
Holy
Y'all got a
cow.
Midland boy on that squad.
We do have a Midland boy. He had the game-winning touchdown. Mm-hmm. It was a great throw and a great catch.
Who's that?
Chris Brazel.
Yeah, Brazel had the game-winning catch against Bama. Diving catch in the end
Surprised you
zone.
didn't know that, Clinton.
Really? I know that's sarcastic, but really.
Jared, I've been waiting about all week to ask you this question. I wanted to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Is Michigan the villain this year? They've got 3 games left against ranked opponents. They could be season ruiners.
Well, so let me answer it this way. First of all, we win a tight game this week against Sparty. Okay. I'm going 17-14. Good guys, go blue on that game. We're going to take advantage of the fact that both of our offenses completely suck, and we're just going to out defense them. It's going to be 17-14 U of M. Transitioning now to the Ohio State game, we go to Columbus, and I'm going to tell you,
Do you ruin their season?
we're going to run their we're going to run their season.
Yeah, because it'll be the second loss, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
we're going to run their season. I don't know. I don't know if it'll be their second loss. It might be their third loss because I believe Ohio State still has to play Penn State, if I'm not mistaken,
They do.
Who's undefeated?
who is currently undefeated, and they go, that's next week. They
Penn
go
State, I think,
at
isn't it?
Penn State.
Oh.
So I think that one's one. Circle it, stamp it. Michigan will win the Ohio State game. It will be a closely contested ball game, but Donovan Edwards is going to finally get out of his little thing. He's going to run for $185 and 2 tutties. Mullins is going to have a tutty. I wrote all this down on a Facebook comment somewhere. 27-20 U of M, go blue on that one. I had one other one here. Oh, Ohio State beats Nebraska by 10 million points. Stamp that. And then Ole Miss is going to beat Oklahoma. And I'm so sorry, Shane. I know that Oklahoma should have been good. I think y'all had a lot of injuries. There's a lot of things going on in Oklahoma right now that's bad.
Ole Miss is playing good, though.
But I think Ole Miss beats Oklahoma. Oklahoma may not score.
Yeah, Norman, that's a team I've been watching my whole life.
I cannot believe they're this bad.
All of their wide
kinda
receivers
can.
are medical redshirting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're just sitting.
they're as bad as Michigan.
They just don't have any offense, and it blows my mind watching an Oklahoma football team that can't score points.
That's what I'm saying,
I mean,
bro.
We're talking about, before my time, Barry Switzer and the Wishbone. You had the Mike Leach and the Josh Heupel offenses in the early 2000s. Then you had Lincoln Riley. Like, my entire life, with the exception of maybe when I was really, really little, OU could score at will.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I don't think their defense is that bad this
It's
year.
not.
They
It's
have a
great.
really good front seven.
They've tackled better than I've seen them tackle in years.
Yeah.
But I just think they're hurt. I think they've got a ton of injuries, and boy, how big of a difference did that defensive lineman for Georgia make?
It's ridiculous. Well, I mean, SEC games are one in the trenches. And
Are you kidding me?
OU just doesn't have the offensive line depth right now. They're beat up, like you were saying. They're hurt. If you can't move the line, you're not going to move the football.
Then we got LSU
That's
and
a big
A&M.
one, Connor.
Oh, that's a huge one.
It's a really tight line, too.
I saw
I think
that.
it was maybe 2.5.
Yeah,
It's 2.5.
so it's 2.5.
A&M favored.
Yes.
A&M is favored at College Station.
It's 12 against 11.
Now, oh my God.
So it's essentially a pick 'em. I've always been under the impression if you're a home team and you get 2, you get 2.5 points for being the home team. So
Yeah.
to me,
So
that's a pick 'em.
What's your pick 'em?
That is a great question.
Because LSU is playing really good right now. So is A&M.
A&M's playing really good right now. They're home at Kyle Field. You know, it's funny because if this was an NFL game, I would be like A&M all day. But for some reason, when you talk about college football, tradition over the last couple of years, it does matter. And A&M historically, and it's a new coach, it could change. They just haven't played well in the big games at Kyle Field since Kevin Sumlin left. And that's
a
the
great point.
only thing that's holding me back from saying hammer the Ags right now is just I haven't seen the Ags in probably 3 or 4 years have a big game in College Station and just dominate.
You're going to appreciate this. You may be even proud of me. This may be one of those moments, Clinton, I'm so proud of you. A&M's quarterback, number 15, don't know his name. Just throw that out there. He tends to panic in pressure situations. We saw it against Mississippi State
Are
last
you talking about Wegman?
Wegman.
I like Wegman.
Yeah, so
We saw it a little bit last week
I got a great opportunity. I was fresh off back surgery.
through 2 picks.
All I could do was sit down. So I went to Cowboy Stadium and watched A&M in Arkansas. And I was basically front row Joe because you could get those tickets right before the game, it turns out, for next to nothing.
Yeah.
And old boy was out. Wegman was out. And they
Marcel
had...
Reed.
Who?
Marcel Reed.
Marcel Reed. That kid is a freak.
Okay, but is he going to be in the game?
Well, I think if Wegman doesn't play well, I think they will bring him in because why not? But the kid can run. His arm is live. He's really accurate for a young kid. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like, he does throw some.
Is he
poor
a true
passes.
freshman?
Yes.
No.
What?
No. Redshirt freshman.
Even then.
Whatever.
He's a freshman?
Yeah. The kid's incredible.
Yeah.
He's really incredible. And the stable of running backs they have are really good, but they're going to get tested this week.
I just saw, and
I don't know who I'd pick.
The only-
either. I'm with you.
the only reason I say that is I saw Mississippi State put some pressure on him, and he threw 2 picks under pressure.
Yeah.
Where he just tried to get rid of the ball, and he threw it right into the hands of the defenders.
Yeah.
And so I think LSU is going to bring even more pressure.
Are you taking LSU?
Absolutely.
You smell that, Ridge? I smell a bet coming on.
I do.
I smell
Let's go,
a bet.
Clinton.
Connor, because we know the hometown guy is going to
We
take
got the ag in the
Ags.
bag. Absolutely.
I will go on LSU with the 2.5.
You're taking the points. Connor, what say you?
Put your money where your mouth is, baby.
Hey,
It's sitting right there on my desk. You can pull my money clip out.
Bet. That's a bet right there.
It's a bet.
that's a good one. We'll follow up on
We'll,
that Saturday.
we'll write that on the board.
You don't need a whiteboard where you got the pick'ems up there and like
It's in
y'all's
his
records.
office.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Perfect.
in his office.
In fact, I just erased all the stuff that me and Z had. I did become a $25 winner off of Z this week. And Sean got a little squirrely with me. He's a big
Texas.
UT fan.
Down.
And I
Genius.
just knew Georgia would smoke them. Oh, that's the other one I was going to bring up. See, I put it down.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep.
My hot take. Closer than the experts think, folks. Vandy's real.
Vanderbilt.
Yes, they are.
18.5-point dogs to UT. And this is not the UT. They're going to come out mad and blah, blah. That's not going to happen. Vanderbilt is going to keep it closer than the experts think.
I was going to say, give me the points on that one for
Yeah.
sure.
Here's a
For
question.
Brilliant line, though, by the way.
Sure. It is.
Because what y'all were talking about, there's a locker room that's divided right now
Well, potentially. I mean, I just think that what Texas did
by putting
against
Arch
Georgia, I think that sent the wrong message. The way he put Arch in. I'm not against putting Arch in. I'm saying the way that he put him in, I think could have potentially sent the wrong message.
does
Take
yours-
him back out. Why
you
do
know.
you take him back out?
in. Stick with your decision.
Well, I'm just that's where I think it was a mistake. Is Ewers obviously was having some issues, but the issues Ewers was having were not necessarily his fault.
No.
Any quarterback in the world, I don't care if they're NFL quarterback or college quarterback, gets hit the way he did, would fumble that ball.
Well, not only that, I mean, if you watch Georgia's front seven, the amount of just movements they were doing, shifting, rotating.
100%.
You put a freshman who's watching this. Quinn Ewers has been in this game for a long time. Was at Ohio State and Texas. He knows how to read a defense, and he's not able to read what Georgia's doing. Kirby Smart's the best at that stuff. And they go, okay, let's put a red shirt freshman in to do it. And I'm not sitting here saying Arch isn't going to be great. The kid's going to be phenomenal. But Quinn Ewers has to be your guy in that situation. You can't just throw a red shirt freshman in when Georgia's just rotating all these defensive tackles in and just changing their coverages and disguising them as well as they are. I was in the same boat you were in. As soon as they put up that line, I hammered Georgia. Georgia because Georgia, when you tell Georgia that the game's going to either be close or that this is a game that they're going to slip up on, they're going to come out and hit you hard.
Yeah.
And we saw it. Was it 20-0?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Finished 30-15, right?
Yeah. And,
Yeah, but that was way
Sure.
yeah,
that was
they
late.
let him in.
Yeah, bro.
Prevent.
No. So Mark Wyndham,
No.
the other night at the Tim Tebow deal, Mark Wyndham was there with me, and Wyndham, he used to referee at the Division I level. So I asked him a question. I said,
Oh, when they picked up the flag.
yes. So I asked Mark. He was like, well, first of all, that wasn't a foul. And I was like, okay, I agree with you there. However, the flag was thrown.
The call
The
was made.
official made the call. And then when the Texas fans threw their fit, and that was a fit, they threw a fit, like a 4-year-old, and threw bottles all over the field, right? Which that helps. Good job. And they go out there and say, okay, never mind, we'll pick that up. The interception stands, and they're down at the 10. Like, bro, they gave them one.
Well, so as a
Straight
Tennessee
up.
fan, I got to know. So if we don't throw mustard, we can get the call reversed. Because Tennessee, if you remember against Ole Miss, we were throwing golf balls and mustard, so we're just as trashy in that sense. But no, that blew my mind too. Because not only was the call made, the chains were moved.
Yeah.
They moved the chains. Like they moved the ball, they moved the chains. Everything was done except for blowing the whistle to go back live. And then the question comes down to when can you change it?
So I asked Mark, and I was like, can you change the call? And he said, yes, you can change the call. He said, but the way in which they changed that call, I do not advise that. He said that was not okay. The way they changed it.
I like the political answer of his answer. I wouldn't advise them to do it that way.
Yeah.
It sounds like they may be getting to call some.
Well, I guarantee you they got horrible grades because they called a terrible game from both sides.
Sounds
it
like
wasn't
they may
just for Texas.
So they're going to be at
JUCO.
A&M LSU this week, probably.
Some JUCO games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, you got
there
Tennessee on a bye week. Jared's got Michigan this week. I love Mississippi State, but I don't have any faith in us.
Which, by the way, on the Michigan deal, real quick, I'm sure nobody cared and watched Michigan, Illinois. I cared because I knew we were doomed. And did you see? I mean, listen, bro, we're 4-3. Okay, Illinois beats us, and they storm the field. Yeah, come on, Illinois, act like you've been there before. I mean, what are we doing?
I mean,
Have they been there
They
before?
haven't.
No, it's like the team.
Yeah, I don't think they have actually against Michigan. It's been a long time.
Who beat y'all really early in the season, and the coach was crying.
That was a
That was probably our coach, to be honest.
no. It was
they
a
had
mid-major though.
They had never done that. Y'all paid him a bunch of money.
Yeah,
to come
it was
play.
it was completely justifiable for him
Yeah.
to cry. Gosh, who was that? I see it.
You talking about Michigan?
Yeah, they beat y'all early in the season.
Was it Michigan they beat, or was it
I
someone else they
put
beat?
so much of that out of my head. I don't think it was us. It wasn't a mid-major. Because we lost to Texas
Washington and Illinois.
and Washington.
Who was that then?
I'm trying to think. It was a big loss.
They upset somebody's season.
As soon as we turn off the tapes, it's going to come to me.
They paid him $1.5 million to come
infuriate me.
play.
Are you talking about Northern Illinois versus Notre Dame?
That is it.
Yes.
That's it.
That was it. Which,
Yeah.
which, by the way, that spread was beat last night. My alma mater, Kennesaw State,
Oh,
0-6.
that was crazy.
0-6. Stormed the field twice. Name any other school that gets to storm the field twice. So, yeah, man, that was awesome. Liberty, for some reason, every time we play Liberty in anything, we find a way to beat them, even if they're undefeated. But yeah, that was our first FBS win ever. Was last night.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is so sick.
That's awesome.
Oh, dude, I'm still on a cloud nine from
Yeah.
that win.
What was the line in that game?
It was 27.5, I think.
And y'all beat him outright.
We beat them outright.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 27.5. It was the largest
Say something
spread in
funny.
3 years of an upset.
Can you technically bet on Liberty since it's a Christian college
I'm sure you can. Maybe not at the University of Liberty, but you could
without
around.
feeling guilty?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Well, here's my thing. I bet against Liberty and I could go to church on Sunday.
Yeah,
God
I was
sent
like,
the bolt down for
a little
sure.
heavy
Kennesaw.
on Vegas for Liberty this weekend.
I can't imagine there were a lot of people betting on that game, but maybe there were. Maybe there were some. I mean, if I would have talked to Ridge, I definitely would have put $50 on it
I
just
wouldn't.
because.
I would have told you to bet on Liberty.
Really?
Oh, dude, we're transitioning to the FBS. Here's how you know Kennesaw's a rebuilding program. We stormed the field. The refs tell us we got 1 second left, and we had the most orderly just dispersion of the field. We only had like
Fire drill, get
yeah,
in
there was only
line.
like 1,500, 2,000 people at the game, so it's just an easy. It took them maybe like 45 seconds to get all the fans back in their seats to run the last play for us.
And
to
then
run
you
it.
stormed
they
it
did
again.
Yeah, but that should just tell you like we're just not there yet. We're getting there, but I mean, for us to go, we started the program in 2015. Went through the FCS ranks. We made the quarterfinals a couple times in the FCS playoffs, and then got up to Conference USA this year. And it's been a rough transition to say the least. We've gotten some really tough games,
But you won a game.
but we dadgum won a game.
1-6 now.
And we ruined a G5's perfect season who had a chance to go to the playoffs. Liberty was just outside the top 25. They were one of 10 undefeated teams left in the country. And
Season runners.
like I said, to ruin Liberty's season again in another sport, it's
There
always
you go.
feels good.
How could you do that to all those Jesus people? Come on, man.
They got to stop playing Kennesaw State in sports.
What a great episode, man. This has been fun. Thanks for joining us. This episode will go live next Friday night right here on YouTube. Again, if you want to watch it. Also, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, across the board, and you can listen there anytime you're looking to hear about what's happening in the golf industry out here in West Texas and nationwide. Check out ghqcrew.com for the latest merch. Get you a t-shirt, get you a hoodie, and be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Thanks for all the support. We love you guys. Ridge, thanks for being on.
Appreciate it, guys.
And we'll see you again very, very soon.